Hello everybody, and welcome to another tutorial in camera and lens repair. And this time I have bought a Canon Zoom Lens FD 100 to 200, and it's Aperture 5.6 and the SC version. And I'd like to, during some videos, I don't know how many, it depends on how much I go into this, but I will take it apart because at first it has a lot of dirt. So I bought it cheap, very cheap actually, but it's a nice condition, except there are dust and dirt in here, and I could see there's also fungus in some lens element in here. So I would like to take it apart and show you how it's possible. And there are some, what you say, things you have to be aware of. I haven't found a service manual for this particular lens, but yeah, let's jump into it. I will begin with taking off the rubber thingy with a use of a hair dryer, just a normal hair dryer, and set it on to 1000 watt and heat up the rubber grip here, because yeah, it's quite not so much in this, it's a bit loose actually, but maybe it's different in your lens. So we can just begin with that. I will speed up the process, of course. And then I will use a chopstick to dig under it. Now it has softened a little, and in that way I can get it a little bigger, and in that way push it forward. I know it's extended because I need to take out the front tube here, and in that way also take off the lens hood section. So it's not brittle at all, this rubber here, but so sometimes they can be a little, but one can actually loose it up a little, and in that way make it a little bigger. So now I think I would be able to actually push it forward. You can see there has been some glue on here to the rubber grip, which over the years has been a little yeah, it has been dried out. So now I think we are there. You see there's one screw here, and it's actually the stop screw for the focus system here. So if I turn it from infinity all the way over to near end, the screw will end up here on a bracket somewhere inside. And it's the same underneath here. So it's good to set a mark, because I mean, the infinity is fine, that's okay. And this one screw, if I take it out, I could just screw off, actually screw off the helicoil, and it will came, when you turn it, it will turn further over to the index mark here, and in that way I can take it off. But I want to go in from the front actually, so because I need to actually take out some parts more. Yeah, well, you know, it shouldn't be that easy, but you can see here there are a notch here, and there is a notch over here, this. And to get into the actual front lens, you need to unscrew that, because then you can take the whole section here off. And for that I have made a tube. I mean, you can use, if you have a lens tool, one of those you buy, you could set a lens tool down here, but I think there is not really room enough. So I was in my my workshop and found a tube like this. Is come from Cook and Baker. I think it's made for baking cakes, stainless steel, and it has an outer diameter of 60.5 millimeter. And so I actually made two small pins, one here and on the opposite side, if you can say that on a tube. So now I can put this in and find the two notch. Hopefully. It can sometimes be a little problem, but you can see in here. Now, there's a thing, if this ring, because it was actually quite tight in this lens, you simply use the old trick as some isopropyl alcohol, as 99 or whatever you have, to simply dig into here and let the thread lock soften, so you can actually loosen it. It shouldn't be that hard to do, and if you press it in, the isopropyl alcohol will move around here, and in that way soften the thread lock. So now I can put my tool in here, find the two notch, and in that way unscrew it. It can sit tight, so be aware of that. As you can see, even with a tool, it could be some more problems, but it works pretty good. So, and now out comes the ring. So we get that, and now we can actually take off the lens hood, because underneath here there are 3 screws that hold the front lens in place. And I would like to actually get that loose. But before doing anything, because we have to know where the lens elements sit when it's correct. And I actually set a mark here earlier, but it wasn't not the right, it was just some notes. But the mark I set here on the front lens, yeah, you can wash it away with isopropyl alcohol, no problem. it goes down all the way down to the index mark here, and also the stop screw here. And it's necessary because we have to have a kind of a alignment of where you put things. And to unscrew the front ring here, we need a tool. I can use the number 5 of the rubber cone. You probably can see it here. Is number 5. Or, which is much better, I can use a rubber gasket from the hardware store, which is more solid in a way, and it's very sticky. Well, of course we can try this. But you see, I have to loosen the 3 screws here. I use a 1.2 millimeter flathead screwdriver. See, the screwdriver could be whatever you might have. And no, I'm not sponsored by any company, just to make that clear. So now they are loose. And now we can hopefully, and again, just to mention that, the name ring here can actually be quite tight. So again, one can actually add some isopropyl alcohol and let it suck around on the thread, and it will hopefully make it more easy to unscrew. You can see it's loose at the moment, but can we get it out? Not really. And there is another thing. There will be a lot, because I forgot to mention that the distance from the name ring here up to the very front here, it will say from here up to here. There should be something around 3.92 or so. It can be different in your lens, but let's see how it measures. Well, since I already turned it, I can just do so. Yeah, I mean, earlier I did that, but you have to unscrew it, and just so you get the point, you have to measure before you take out a lens, and also set a mark where it should. So that's the front lens, and there's nothing really special. It looks fine, no haze or fungus or so. You just put it aside, and now we can unscrew the front ring. I mean the front ring, the front focus. You see the helicoil in here. It's quite long, and I want to go into that lens, but it's not that easy as I thought. I will unscrew this, and because then I can get the focus out. So with a 2.5 millimeter flathead screwdriver, and have a good grip on it. So, out with that. Now, this is a stop screw that sits here. So when I turn the focusing ring, it will come off. At some point it ends up at, I mean, normally it will stop at around here, but it continues over to that arrow I said earlier. I mean, before. But you can see it goes all the way up to here. Boom, comes out. So it's a bit over a turn. And when you put it on again, you just pop it in, and it will just fit into the thread. So you see when it comes off, like this, you simply set a mark here, just so you know where it should come on again. That's important. Now, this is just a tube, and just to mention, screw the tiny screws here in again a little, so they will not disappear. You can probably not buy any other. Well, I don't know. But you maybe could get some spare parts. So this is just some tube. To get further into it, it's a bit tricky, this lens, because there are some rings we have to take off. I mean, also the zoom barrel here. And before I take that out, it sits with 4 screws here around, set screws. So before I take it out, I will just recommend you set a mark in line with the index mark here, and into that tube here it will say, you simply set a mark here, and you also set a mark here, so you know the exact position of this. That's important. And to take that out, yeah, I'll just loosen them. And again, if the screws sit too tight, which can happen, you simply add a little isopropyl alcohol and simply add on each screw. Because if they break, which is also a possibility, and you might let the isopropyl alcohol sit a little, you simply loosen them. So, and it can be that you have to be very careful when you unscrew them, so you just wiggle them a little, which can be a good thing. And so we do. So, not necessary to unscrew them fully, just loosen them. So, and so it's ready to actually move out. So, nothing special. That's just a barrel, a tube, whatever you call it. So now we are looking into more of the lens. There are a ring down here, which sits on here, and it sits with 3 set screws. So yeah, I also need to set a mark which I set on the back side here. No one will really see it if they don't know, but set a mark here on the back. It will say you set a tiny mark where you so you know where the position of this ring. It doesn't really matter because there is no, what do you say, there is no index mark or whatever. It's just a ring with 3 set screws, so it's not really necessary. And again, we'll use a lot of isopropyl alcohol for this lens because there are actually a lot of set screws. So again, add it, and hopefully they will be quite easy to loosen. Just so much, not more than that. And the last one here. So it should be fine to take out, and we can just do this. Nothing special. Take care of the set screws. Now we are looking much more into the deep of this the lens and the zoom section here. Inside there is a lens element in here, and we can also see here on the front, this is the inner lens element, which can be unscrewed. It took me a while to make a tool for this, so it's just a hole saw while I filed and grind, except 2 teeth, so it can fit in just 2 of the holes. I tried actually to make one with 4 holes, but it was more difficult than I thought, since I haven't taken out yet. So this is the actual diameter here is something like 36.6 millimeter, and I actually bent the 2 teeth here a little outward, just a little. No, sorry, it was in, so it actually go that way here, to fit into the 2 whatever holes you use. But I would like to get into the to the actual inner lens here, because if we look here and we take a look through the lens, I will show the reason, because if we look through here, maybe it's better to look here. If we look here, we can probably see there are signs of fungus, old fungus, I guess, which I really would like to remove if it's possible. I don't know if it's a cemented lens, don't know yet, but we'll see. So to get into the front lens, we can just put this together and use a tool like this, or if you have a lens tool, it could be whatever, this one, but remember the holes in here are not that deep, so you shouldn't use a too deep one. That's why I make this tool, because it will only go 2-3 millimeters into the hole, and down here there is actually quite long, but this is actually the inner tube where it sits too. So to get it out, remember to set a mark, and that's quite important. I mean, it sits very tight. So just so we have the lens back into place again, set a mark here, almost in line. Since I've been into it, I tighten it a bit too much, but it doesn't really matter. And here, yeah, here we actually have to use a lot of isopropyl alcohol on the edge here. You can see it probably will go around, and I spent really a lot in this lens, and it was much harder than I thought. So have a grip down here, not here, because when you push on it, it will push the lens backward. So have a good, or you could just press the lens down to the table. And in this case, I will use my homemade lens tool here. And in this case, I will use a 9mm ring wrench, because it actually fit over here. No, it doesn't really. It's the fork I use, because it can come over here. And in that way, it's so much better grip than if I just hold on to the actual ring here. So we put it on. I put some tape on here to not scratch it too much. So there, have a good grip. And then, since I've been into it, it is not that tight yet anymore, but at first it was really, really tight. So hopefully we can get it out. Click. So now it comes out, hopefully, and we can just pop it into the hand. Hopefully. So here you can see it, and we just have a look how it looks actually. Well, it looks like more dirt and dust, so I will hopefully dig into the and take the whole lens element out of it when it comes to that. Now, to actually get the next lens element out, it was a bit tricky, because the gap here, between is the only way you can get it out. Since you see there is no around here, you see the gap in here is what it is, and it will not continue out here. So you cannot just take it out that way, no matter what. So you have to unscrew the inner lens group, because it's the only way you can get it out. But before doing so, we need to take out, there is one screw here, which is a stop screw. You probably can see it down here. You'll say this pin down here, and there is of course another one over here. One is very easy to come to, it sits here, but over here, there's one of those springs that hold the, there is a nylon piece in here on all the three, and we do not need to take the whole, all of those out to get into the screw. So I will just to take that out here, and with a 3mm JIS. You can just loosen it and then unscrew it fully. So I need to take out the spring here, and hopefully it can come out that way. See, here is the other screw. Now, before taking out this lens, we need to make 2-3 scratch. You see, since I already have been into it, I set a mark here. Actually 2 marks here. And on the other side, I actually set 2 marks, because maybe it's not really that the lens has to sit correct one side or the other side. I don't know. I have not seen any service manual for this lens. So I set 2 marks over here. And in that way I know the position of that. So when putting the lens element in again, you have to gently tighten the screws, and then you press it down here, so it will align itself into the ring here. That's just what I see. Now, to get that out, you just unscrew it, and it's the only way you can come into it. Actually, not yet, because, as I said, we need to unscrew those 2 screws. And again, we need to use much more isopropyl alcohol than you would think of, which is good to soften the screw threads, thread lock. So, and let it sit a little. Take care of the little nylon thingy. It's actually the one that press on the inside here to make it less loose. Now, a screw out. So this one, because it's important to take that 2 screws out, because then I can move the tube here further that way. And I have to take out the tube anyway, because I want to re-grease the front. And this is actually the only helicoil that is in this lens. I thought there were more helicoils, but there isn't. Now I can move this ring here further, because if I didn't do that, there wouldn't be space enough to take out the lens element in here. So you will see. I'll just unscrew this, at least loosen it a bit. We can just take it out, no problem. Out with that. Have a good grip underneath here, so the lens will not just fall somewhere. So, and be careful, because you know how the lens is facing, so we have to put it correct in again. Now, since I have pushed the, well, it come off, okay, no matter. I will have to have it off anyway. So we see here, I simply turn the lens and in that way take it out. Ah, so it is. Not any problem. And I think it was in here there was some fungus. You might see it inside here. I haven't been into the lens and take it out because I want to make it on camera. So it is. Be aware of, I can see it right now, this this lens surface on the, yeah, it will say on the back here. It's a bit convex here, so don't put it directly on this this way. Turn it over and put it that way. So now, actually I can put this on again. So yeah, interesting. And you see, you cannot actually put it in a wrong way because there's a long notch here which goes onto this bar, kind of. So it can only sit in one way, which is nice. So when we put it on again, we can have, you can see the three white rollers in here, sliders. We have to loosen them again before I actually put this one in again, just so we know that. So what else? Yeah, I want to get into the aperture too. So I figure out, okay, how do you actually get into the aperture? Because it was a bit tricky, in my opinion. And yeah, we set it to A, and we put this over here to the very end, so it says click. Now the aperture is actually closed. So if we have some light through it, you can see it's actually closed. So when you move the aperture ring, hold on a second, you have to do this, turn it to 22, and then I can close this lever here, and then that way open and close the aperture. If I don't do that and set it to A, well, it will be that lever here that moves the aperture. Now, to actually get that the aperture assembly out and also the back lens, I need to figure out, okay, how can I in the easiest way get into it? And I figure out, okay, what is this ring for? Yeah. But I need to actually take out the mount first, and there are three long special screws. One sit, you have the index mark here, one sits here, another one here, and the last one over here. And to get into them, you can see you can move the lock ring, the breech ring. But remember to set this all the way over to here. It will make it a little easier. There is also, and we will just be aware of that, there is a tiny little pin here. Well, it's actually a long tube that goes in here, and it has a little spring on top of it inside. So be aware of that. Now, a 2.5mm screwdriver, it goes in here. and fits hopefully nice and snugly. And we can, it's good with a magnetized screwdriver. So you see they are quite long and very special. Then the next one. Quite long. The last one, I need to move the actual breeze ring, and since the locking function in here is not really that good, the spring here is not that good, I will dig into that. The last one here. So out with that, and we can just put this somewhere here. Maybe it will work, but you can see the spring here doesn't really go into lock position because it's pressed down. It should work. No, but you see, you can we can now take out the mount. It's quite loose, but take care of the little pin here. It's very important because there is a tiny spring that hold the pin against the back here, so it will towards this way. So we need to face it down, and in that way have the mount sits correct. So we can take it out that way, and here we have a better view. Now the little pin sits here, so I need to take that out. And there is a tiny little spring that will come out too. See that little spring here? It we can just pop it into the pin here. So now you can see it here. Be careful of that. Now then we will have a closer look in here to have a better view of what's going on in here. You see this pin here goes into this in here. It will actually move the, so you can see here. Yeah. I just yeah, it was actually fine. We can see down here the spring down here is actually pulling the other way, but we'll come into that closer. See, the other pin here is actually the one that push against this pin down here. You probably can see it, maybe. I'll try with a pencil. See, no, it's difficult. See down there, this pin down here. Maybe it's better with this one. See this pin down here, and it moved the aperture. So let it stay in this position when you put it in. Yeah, that's it. I will come back to this because it needs some attention. Now to get the aperture out, we need to of course take out the aperture ring, and there are two steel ball and there are two springs. Since I already have been into it, I know where they sit One sits over here. I set a mark here, and the other one is actually sitting over here. So there are two of them. We cannot come into them because the two pieces of metal here and here, I cannot move it any further. It will say that the aperture ring actually have a double as many click like a normal lens. I mean, it's not only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aperture, it's something in between until A. Now, to get that out, it took me a while to figure out, okay, how would I assemble it again? Well, since I don't want to lose the two springs and the two steel ball, so I figure out, okay, I take out this bar here, this piece of metal, which only can sit in one position. So there are two lengths, different lengths screws, a short one here and a long one here. So out with that. So, and the other one. A little longer. You probably can see the difference in lengths. So we can just take this out. And without any problem, hopefully. Ah. Well, it just pop it into my hand. So, and the other one. And now it begins to be tricky. We set the A and lock the aperture ring. So one have to press quite a lot in to lock the position. So now the aperture ring is locked. Now I can unscrew this, but before doing so, since it's long holes here, again I will set a scratch here, here and here. So it is. Then I can unscrew this piece of metal. Well, and the screws are quite small, not the same size and length as like the other. So I have this out. So, and now here comes the tricky part. We take one steel ball at a time. You do not just, no way. So we move the aperture ring away from the A. It will say I turn it that way and holding here. Now see, what's actually happened is a steel ball come out here, and you maybe didn't see it, but we can take a closer look on it. Maybe you have figured out. I can just put the steel ball in again, which it's not that hard. So click. See, when the aperture ring is set to A in line here, I do have to move the aperture ring just slightly, just a little. And again, do not just pull it out. No way. So yeah, of course, if you want to lose a steel ball, but you see, press the A and keep at least some fingers on, then you can move the aperture ring, then the steel ball will come out. But it will not just flew away, because you see this gap here quite long, and since you have your fingers on here, the steel ball will not just fly away when you turn the aperture ring. So the steel ball actually sits here, which is not that big. And by the way, we can just measure it, just so you know how big it is. Because that can be, if you lose the steel ball, what size is it actually? So it's the steel ball is 1.57 millimeter, yeah, maybe 1.56 or so, I would rather say. But we'll just take it out, put it aside. The little spring is still in here because there is grease on it. The other one, I will turn the aperture ring and press it when it comes to A. Of course, I have to press here and loosen it. So, and it will come out over here, because you see this curve here is actually the way you put in the aperture steel ball, the click. So I can turn the aperture ring until it comes all the way over to here. And again, since I will not lose this steel ball, I simply put my hands, my two fingers on here, so the steel ball will not just flew away, which it can. So now it's out. Not yet, because it sits over here. See the last click, or we could start from A. We'll set it on A. So now we get some clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the last click. There. 6. Now I will turn the aperture ring until I come all the way over to my mark here. You can probably see the little steel ball in here. No, it's difficult, but in here it is. So when I move the aperture ring out, tick, 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 and since I have my mark here, I know exactly where it comes to. It will say around there. And did you see what happened? Actually, the steel ball was push it out, because that would happen if you not take care of it. Since it popped on my clothes, my t-shirts, well, it's not a problem, but we can just go back to where it should sit. It will say here, and I can use my flat dentist tool here to actually press it in, and in that way move the aperture ring, and then it's in again. So we go back to the last click, and I will not lose this one, so I put my fingers on here and move the aperture ring. Yeah, see, it comes out. So now it's out. I mean, it's just to be careful, because then you will actually lose the aperture steel ball, which is not that nice. So now we can actually take out the aperture ring. And if you set it to A, you will not be able to take it out. It has to come out of A all the way over here, and then you can take it out. This is the locking function in here, which you can see here. There's a little plastic thingy. It presses against a little spring in here, and with the little hole in here, this little hole, it goes on to this pin here, and it has a little well, what you call a pin, I don't know. So now we actually have disassembled a lot in this lens, but we're not done yet, because I want to take out the aperture assembly with the back lens group. So I think, okay, is there any other set screw that could do anything? Until I found out this brass ring here actually hold the whole, this tube here, and the actual it holds that tube. And before I can take out the aperture assembly, I need to take out, unscrew this ring and take out the back here. And later on we'll unscrew the 3 screws here around. Yeah, well, so before actually take out that ring, we need to set a mark, another mark, and it has to be in line with the index mark I set much earlier. So we can set this ring here, mark here. It doesn't do anything, so I do not damage anything. And also on the ring here, and on the just set a tiny mark here, in line with all the numbers here. And in that way, I also spent a lot of, yeah, you get it, a lot of isopropyl alcohol. And it has to, because it sits extremely tight. And it's probably still too tight. That's why I use actually a lot of isopropyl alcohol and let it suck in. And hopefully we can unscrew it. Maybe you have to use some rubber glove or whatever. I was thinking of making a tool that could unscrew it in that way. And we have to unscrew it that way. It would say, yeah, well, if we look from the back here, we have to unscrew it that way. So clockwise. There's no need for taking out this pin. And if you wanted to do it anyway, you just set a mark here, just so we know where it should sit. There's still no service manual for this lens, so make sure to do it. So I will just try to unscrew this. So now I can unscrew this. And it can also only sit in one position. So now it's free. I can, no, it wasn't. You see, I can take this out, and there it can only sit in one way. There is a guide pin here, and there is a notch here. So this one you can just put it in, and it will click into place. So that's it. And now we are looking forward to take the whole aperture assembly out. And it sits in that way. Oh, I forgot those 2 spacers. Yeah. You see, lenses have to be correct aligned, and in this way it depends on how how the lens is actually focusing, and so they can add different spacers here to make it well, you say focusing not correct or correct. And in your lens it could be maybe there is only one, or there may be two of different thickness of those. Maybe there's only one in your lens, or maybe two or three. It depends. So that was all about that. Next thing is to actually come into the aperture assembly. Well, I could take out this ring here, and well, it's not really necessary, but there should be 3 screw holes here around this. If there isn't, I mean, I guess it is. It's the way they put it back in. You could actually take out this barrel here by unscrewing the 3 set screws here. But it's not really necessary. So I want to unscrew those 3 screws. And for that I will use a 2mm. Hopefully you can see it's a 2mm with a good, it has to sit really good in the screw head. So just unscrew it. And cannot get it out. Maybe a magnetized screwdriver can help. Yeah, it helps. So, and it can only sit in one position, so there should not be any problem with that. So, we can just take the last one here. Something fell out. Okay, that was that screw. It just fell on the floor. I will pick it up anyway. Something happened. So, and now we have the aperture assembly in here. You see, to put it back in again, we have to set it correct. It will say, well, if we just take it out, can it sit in a different position? Well, it can actually. Yeah, but you see, the zoom numbers, this one has to sit to that way, to the left, because the screw holes in here, probably can see them here. I'm not sure if they are sitting at the same. Just try one thing. Is it possible? Yeah, you can actually sit it wrong, because the screw holes here, yeah, they have to sit correct. At first, just so we know that, at first, I just forgot that. It sits correct now. So what I did is actually I make a little scratch in here on, actually on here. And then I also set a little scratch. You probably can see it. No, it's not. Yeah, you can see there's a little spot there. And I also set a mark in here. So just to mention that you have to set it correct. So it will say like this when you put it in. So then we actually have taken almost the whole thing apart, and this is the Aperture assembly, which has no problem except for, well, let's have a look on the lens element. It's not that bad, just a little dust in here. Yeah, so it's not that hard, and the aperture is quite good, so no problem here. And if you want to take it apart, because if there could be some oil in here, you just take well, 3 screws here, and as I can see, you probably also have to set a small mark somewhere, just for your own notes. Just set a little mark here. So now we know the position of this plate here. If you look at, maybe there are big holes. Those are big holes, are they? We don't know yet. We can just check. Yeah. Well, there could be a possibility. Yeah, you can see the holes are quite big, so they can move a little around to fine-tune the aperture. But there's no need for going into the aperture at the moment, in my opinion. So, how do we actually get that lens element out? There's a tube here, which might be possible to unscrew. No, not really. Yeah, there is a retaining ring down here. So, well, let's see. It's not a problem at the moment. So we can just maybe just blow away whatsoever in here. You see, if you just do this and you by accident put it back into the housing and see, okay, it doesn't really work. So you have to actually press here a little and open this a little. You cannot just press here. So you have to open a little here, and then in that way push the other here away so it's in correct place. I think it's all for now. Yeah, I will cleaning the lens elements, especially those two, and also probably the front lens. So see you sooner in the next video.